Hello. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about 10 tips on if you're considering going to graduate or professional school, as you saw in the title. And if you would love to hear the advice that I have, then continue to watch. Okay, so I say so a lot, and I say and a lot, and so please bear with me. See, I just said so again. All right, but here we go. When considering a graduate or professional program, you're considering a career field. So the first thing that I would suggest is to be sure that it is something that you really want to do. So you need to do research on it. I would ask myself, if I was not getting paid, would I still do it? And that's how you can determine whether or not something is your purpose. So if you don't see yourself washing cars for free, okay, well then you know you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. Versus if you can see yourself doing accountant work for a business that can afford an accountant, then that might be something you want to do. Okay, so the second thing I would suggest is to spend time in the desired field. So you can do this by interning. For example, I found a mentor as I was getting ready to get my observation hours. And when you were just observing, you're not really doing anything, but I'm getting a feel of what they do and whether or not it's something that I like to do. So I definitely suggest looking into the field before doing it. Because for another example, I work at the hospital. I see a lot of nurses that are not passionate about their job, and I just feel like it's important to really know what you're getting yourself into before you waste the time and the money trying to pursue that. Number 3, I would say do everything early. Okay, time is money and money is time. Therefore, deadlines and stuff, they will creep up on you. It is important to turn your stuff in before the deadline. You don't want to be the one at the bottom of the pile. You want to be at the top of the pile. Just because the application may be due on January the 2nd, have yours turned in December the 20th. It doesn't hurt to be early. Better you can prepare for things when things don't turn out the way you expect for them to. You want to make sure that you ask for your recommendation letters early. You ask for your transcripts early. If your application is due in December, you want to start requesting your paperwork in October, because it's not going to hurt. At least October. I mean, you could go ahead and request it in September. And another thing is, like, if your application say is due in January, you might be taking classes for December that needs to be on that application. You could still request your transcript in November and tell them to send it once you get your final grades in. So you don't have to wait until your final grades post to be able to send that transcript or even request it. They'll send it after the grades post, but you can request it ahead of time. So it's best to go ahead and do that so you won't forget. And with the recommendation letters, nobody likes being on last minute about writing a good letter. If you want a good letter, when I was in undergrad, they recommended that we ask 3 months ahead of time, which might sound like a long time, but they have a big agenda. So it's easier to ask too early versus too late. Whereas if you ask too early, you can stay on top of them about it. Every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks, you can get an update and say, hey, I need my letter. Don't forget my deadline. And if you have it early, then that's even better. So I would definitely suggest requesting your materials early and having it before time. Money, all that stuff. Number 4, I would suggest to find a mentor and find someone to talk to. Find a mentor that is geared towards your needs. I had a mentor, but she really didn't have the struggles that I had. She was coming out of undergrad when she was getting ready to go to occupational therapy school with a very strong undergraduate GPA, whereas I wasn't. So no offense to her, but had I had someone in my corner to tell me, you need to go take a couple classes before you apply, just being honest with me about that, then I probably would haven't applied that first time and saved my bucks on me spending my money for my application when I knew I wasn't going to get accepted because I didn't have the requirements. So you need to have a mentor that's going to push you, but that's going to be honest with you about your situation and not so much just tell you what they did and tell you to do what they did. You know what I mean? For tip number 5 is look up requirements based on your program. So just because you want to go to physician assistant school, you can't just Google and say, what's the requirements for physician assistant school? You have to know what the requirements is for that program in North Carolina, at University of Alabama, Birmingham, and University of South Alabama. They vary based on location. Each school requires something different. Just like for occupational therapy, it's different requirements for all 3 programs in the state of Alabama. Therefore, I had to look up the requirements for each, and I had to decide, okay, well, since I have to retake these classes, or this is a class that I didn't take in undergrad, do I really want to give the classes that I'm going to take towards one program or B program? You know what I mean? It's like you have to decipher which programs you really want to try to go after, because all of them might require something different, and it's going to take more time trying to fit the needs of all the schools. It's better to narrow it down to about 3 schools and then go from there to see which requirements you can kind of works for all 3 schools. Number 6, make a to-do list. I love to-do lists. I love to write everything down. This little book, I write down everything, or I try to. So you want to make a to-do list just so you can stay on top of things, and it never hurts to make goals for yourself. Making short goals and reaching those goals motivates you to reach your long-term goals. Therefore, I suggest making a to-do list, even if it's just day by day, week by week, things that needs to get done, because like I said earlier, time will creep up on you. So that way you can stay on top of things and you can prioritize what's more important. Okay, so do I need to get my letters, or do I need to go ahead and be requesting my transcript? I like to make out a budget as well as a to-do list. So if I know I need $40 for this application fee, if I know I took classes at 3 different schools and I have to request 3 different transcripts, go ahead and write down the price of it. That way, as well as you're making your to-do list, you can make a list on how to budget your money. You can make a list and say, okay, well, I need to put up $50 this week, $50 next week, so I can have my application fees covered, my transcript request covered, and any other fees that I might need to pay. Number 7, don't be afraid to ask questions. There are never any dumb questions except for the ones that weren't asked. I know one of the most frustrating things with me when I was preparing to apply for occupational therapy school was no one could really answer my questions, and that was very discouraging because I felt like I had to figure a lot of stuff out on my own. So I am one to say, I'm here. If I know, I will try to answer the best of my ability. If I don't know, I will try to find an answer. Like, ask questions. Ask your peers. We shouldn't be in competition with each other or be against each other. We should be trying to help each other, to build each other up, and to support one another. For instance, I had a friend that was like 2 years ahead of me that went to occupational therapy school. When I got ready to apply, I reached out to her. I said, hey, what are some of your tips? What should I do? You just want to ask for advice, but you don't want to just necessarily mimic what that person has done, because their situation may not work for your situation. But make connections. Connections will be your biggest advantage, is meeting people, knowing people. It also pays to make connections, because when you're working in the workforce, you have to talk to people. You have to meet people. Therefore, go ahead and start now. You're not going to know everything. Just ask a question. It's not going to hurt you, and it will only benefit you in the end. So please ask questions. Number 8. Be persistent. Like I said, if you ask for your recommendation letter 12 weeks ahead of time, make sure you follow up. If you don't get a response from the email that you sent your professor about a question, then follow up on that email, or the admissions chair for a certain department, then follow up. Don't just say, oh, well, they're busy, they'll get back with me. Follow up with another email. If they don't email you back, call them. If they don't call you, go up to their office. Find their office hours. That's what they're there for. So you might as well use it to your advantage. And it's best to have a one-on-one, face-to-face type conversation anyway. That way I can look at you and see your intent, and you can see mine. You know them face-to-face, and they can remember you, because a face put to a name is better than a name with no face. Be persistent. And if it's something that you really want, you're going to keep at it. If you don't get it the first time, you're going to keep going. So definitely keep your persistence. Number 9, always, please have a backup plan. Like, if you would have came to me in 2013 and said, this is what you would be doing right now, I would have been like, girl, bye. But it's true, like, plan A is not 90% of the time it's not gonna work. That doesn't mean that you can't get to plan A. It just means you might have to use plan B to make your way to plan A. So seriously, it's like you might have to use plan B to get to plan A. It's called a detour. Just because you reroute doesn't mean you won't get to your final destination. Delayed does not mean denied. So please come up with plan A, B, and C. Like plan A for me could have been to go to one university, but I ended up at another one. Luckily, this was my first choice, but had it not been, I would have just had to go where I was accepted. So make sure you have a backup plan. Tip number 10. Always stay positive. Keep God first. Stay prayed up. You know, be positive. Find positivity in every situation. Okay, I got all A's and B's, but I got 1 C. But look at the fact that you got 3 A's and 2 B's. Even though you got that 1 C, you got 3 A's. So focus on the 3 A's and not the 1 C. You know, focus on the positive and not the negative. Because once we think positive, then we act positive and we can be positive. I think that about wraps it up today. For my tips on considering graduate or professional school, or you can even use these tips considering undergrad or whatever, you know. So if you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back with another video. Be motivated.